Welcome to Pink Lion, a podcast for the curious, the grieving, the awakening, and the quietly intuitive. I'm Cindy Smuck, medium, mother, and founder of Pink Lion Mediumship. Here we talk about what happens when the veil thins between this world and the next, between logic and knowing, between who you were and who you're becoming. Through real stories, lived experiences, and grounded conversations about spirit, grief, healing, and trust. This is a space where nothing is forced and nothing is dismissed. If you've ever felt something you couldn't explain, you're in the right place. Let's begin. Hi, welcome to the Pink Lion podcast. On this week's episode, I have a very special guest. Her name is Ashley. And Ashley comes to us because our worlds sort of collided. And I do TikTok lives fairly often. And Ashley kind of stumbled into my room one day. And when she did, she was a delight. She's got a great sense of humor. And she's got a very unique story, but also not unique. A lot of us are coming into our own intuition and we're coming into an understanding of what I would call our divinity. And so understanding that, Ashley has begun her journey into mediumship as well. But more importantly, the journey that got her there, it didn't start with just seeing spirit or sensing spirit or anything like that. It started very much like my own in trauma. And in that trauma, what can happen is you get very accustomed to reading energy without understanding what that is, because you have a heightened sensitivity to how people's emotions are. And when you walk into a room or when you prepare for anyone to come into your space at any point, you can tell right away if they're going to be combative or if they're annoyed or something, and you know how to dance around that. And so for years, I didn't have a name for that. And it really is just reading energy. You're picking up on somebody else's emotions. But I kind of was curious, Ashley, if you would mind kind of just talking to the listeners and explaining how your story began.
Yeah, so spiritually speaking, it didn't really develop until it's been almost 2 years now. But whenever it comes to my intuition, I've always been able to sense kind of like what you were saying with trauma. I actually have complex PTSD, it's not in the DSM-5, but basically what it means is that there's been more than one traumatic event. It's just been going and going and going throughout my life. And I didn't get out of that traumatic cycle until I was about 22. I think it was 22. And as my life went on, I kind of always had to be on alert to see if something was going on before I asked any sort of questions. I always had to get a sense of what are they feeling? What's their mood? And so because I got really good at trying to get a feel for what others were feeling or what kind of mood they were in order for me to ask any questions or speak to them or how to approach a situation, it's kind of just led into my life in general, where I'm able to pick up very easily if someone's not in a good mood or anything like that. And I usually either remove myself or if I feel comfortable enough. And this is another aspect of it. I have to figure out if I feel comfortable enough even asking them if they're okay or anything like that. And so, yeah, it definitely goes back to trauma with the intuition for sure.
And what brought you to understanding, or how did you get drawn into the spiritual community?
Yeah, so I got drawn to the spiritual community when it was 2 years ago now. I had an experience where I had lost my cousin, and about a month later, she came to me in a very, very unique way. She came to me and told me that not everything is what it seems, basically. She told me a lot, and I don't remember everything because it was so much, and a lot of it was her trying to keep me grounded so that I didn't lose the connection with her. I was about to fall asleep, I was in the middle of that transition to go to sleep, and all I heard in my head was, "You're listening to meditation music to try to connect with me? That's really embarrassing." And I was like, "What?" I wasn't listening to the meditation at that time, but beforehand, I had visitation dreams of my grandpa. And so
Mhm.
whenever she passed away and I was super close to her, that was my hardest loss. I kept trying to figure out how to get her to come to my dreams because I'm like, I know that spirit can do that because I've experienced it before. And she wasn't coming in. And so she came into this really unique way, I guess just to mess with me because that's just who she was as a person is as a soul basically. Um and I have a lot of religious trauma, so I was always told growing up that when loved ones pass away, they don't want anything to do with you because they're happy in heaven, having fun with Jesus.
Mhm.
That's just how it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so she came to me addressing that religious trauma essentially by telling me that I don't have to worry about going to hell. She wanted to emphasize that. And she was telling me that there is some truth in the Bible, but to read it and figure out what rings true to me because of how many times it's been translated, how man has corrupted the word essentially,
Mm.
and just finding my own truth and that whatever the truth is, it's okay because I'm not going to hell.
Yeah.
And she also one thing that will forever stick with me was she had told me that the definition of perfection here is not the same definition as of perfection as it is on the other side.
Mhm.
And so between that and her telling me to lean more towards spirituality, that has what ultimately led to where I'm in right now. And although I'm still trying to learn the discernment and figure out for myself what rings true to me, I'm I feel a lot more close to that. I feel closer to source than I was to begin with whenever I was, studying the Bible or in church or anything like that. Not that I don't want to discredit it completely because again, I'm still trying to figure out what rings true, but and another thing that she told me was the intentions. I had no idea about intentions and spirituality,
Mhm.
but she wanted me to know that whenever she was basically branching off of the perfection definition, she wanted to let me know that my intentions are what matters the most. And as soon as I jumped into spirituality, that was all that kept coming up was set your intentions. What is
Mhm.
your intention? And so that was just complete validation for what I experienced after that.
That's very interesting because I talk about that all the time about setting my intention before I read in the room um and our thoughts dictate our reality. I mean, that's another way of saying set your intention or have good intentions or what have you. But um what have you found by kind of exploring different people in the spiritual community? What have you learned?
Well, for one, our loved ones are around us all the time.
Mhm.
The readings that I've gotten about things that no one would have known or anything like that, because I did go into the mediumship a little bit skeptical,
Mhm.
regardless of how many people I saw being read and validating things that I can tell that the medium did not know that person at all. And so whenever I got my first reading, which was with my cousin, it just blew my mind, and they I essentially learned that they're always with us and that they didn't just abandon us kind of thing.
That's right, they didn't, and they don't. I mean, I've found that they're not necessarily attached to objects or places, but you. They're attached
Exactly.
to you, they're with you. And so they're in our thoughts mainly, in our consciousness. And so it's not like they're in the room with us. I mean, sometimes that can happen, but like mostly it's in our consciousness. And so I have wondered Like if you have experienced when you had your first mediumship reading, how did you feel about it? Like what happened to you afterward? Like what was your experience, you know?
Yeah, so it took them a minute to pick up on what my cousin was putting down, so it was a little bit delayed compared to other readings. However, once they picked up on what she was giving them, it went from there. She I'm trying to think, because in the moment, I was just so shocked. I remember being super shaky at the fact that they were pulling in this information. It's been the only reading that I've cried in. I was a hot mess during the reading just because I didn't expect her to come through or for
Right.
her to be, reachable, just because I still had those walls up mentally. Even though they may have been a little bit lowered, they were definitely still up whenever it came to getting readings and believing that they were always with me, because that's what trauma does, is it stays in the back of your head even whenever you're given that evidence
Mhm.
that comes forward. But yeah, I just remember feeling really emotional and really shocked at the same time.
What type of evidence, I should say, what type of evidence did they pull through? What convinced you that it was her?
What convinced me that it was her, I don't wanna give you too much.
Oh gosh. Oh yeah. Don't tell me. Don't tell me that. I don't want it in my head. Yeah. Never mind. Skip that question.
Okay, I was like, "It's
I'm
big
gonna be
evidence,
reading.
I don't think you
I'm
wanna
gonna be
know."
reading Ashley, and I was just curious. Okay, so we don't want to talk about that. I just walked myself right into the thing I told you before we started. Don't tell me anything about anybody. Oh lordy, I need to be a better host. Okay. When you watch other mediums, okay, or any medium, really, and because you're in several rooms, I'm sure you help mod for several different mediums. What do you find? What do you find is good, and what would you like to see improved with certain people?
So, the very specific information, I think, is the best information. I feel like that's what really shows you what kind of medium the person is, or just how, I don't think developed is the correct word,
Hmm.
but just how less likely you are to get a cold reading kind of thing. Now, other mediums, I don't disagree with the whole giving months, initials kind of thing. I think what really ties it together is the specific information, especially whenever it comes to memories or specific details about an object that someone has or got for that loved one. Things like that, I feel like, are the main things that should be focused on rather than trying to pull in the months and the initials. Not that I don't not that I wanna discredit that, because I know a lot of mediums that do both, and I feel like they are just as good.
Hmm.
But I really do think that focusing on specific information is the key to figuring out if, okay, that was legit kind of thing. Things that no one would know, or and rather than things that you can kinda just throw against the wall and see if it sticks.
Well, spirit's always going to tell a story. You know, they're telling a story about their connection to the sitter. And usually that's going to be very specific, and it's going to help that person in some way. And so I think that it is important. I mean, every reader is going to be slightly different. And so surrendering is very important to spirit. And they dictate what is going to be said, because I could read you 5 times and you should have 5 different readings, maybe even from the same person. Okay. The same soul on the other side, they want to say 5 different things. And so it's just there should be some sort of evidence of this person's personality and their life and their, you know, you can pull back so many different things. But for me, whether they give me a name or an initial, or like, I mean, you've seen it. Sometimes it happens, but it doesn't always happen.
Right.
So I just have to kind of follow along. But I'm wondering what that feels like for the person on the other side of the screen. Is it more validating for you to what sort of information is a regular person wanting to hear? You know what I mean? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, so for me, the most validating information that I've gotten is memories, objects connected to the
Yeah.
person, tattoos even. That for some reason the tattoos always get me. Um, just anything along those lines with memories. Like you said, spirit tells a story. So anytime there's a story or something to pick on related to a memory or
Mhm.
even an object, I feel like that is very important, especially if it's an object that you got for that person. Knowing that they were there to see that you got that for them is just so important to me for some reason. It's always been the key information for me.
That is good to understand and know, but also for anybody who hasn't been read before. And you have. How many times have you been read?
I think it's been a couple times. I want to say about 5 or 6 times I've been read. I'm I didn't get into this until a few months ago. So it took me about a month or 2 to finally be read, and ever since then it's just been a few readings here and there. I think I've only had like 2 spirit leds, if that. My people don't come through very often, but I'm okay with that. And so and I think with the spirit leds, it's definitely you have to be open and understand that the postcards are just as important, at least for me anyways.
Mhm. So, spirit led in those rooms, or in let's say you're in an auditorium with another medium who's doing a live event in person. Those are genuinely like spirit led, but also a private reading can be spirit led too, meaning spirits leading whoever comes through first, and they have the message that you need to hear. So it can be spirit led in any context, but I think those are the most valuable because you see who's there and you see how that their message can contribute to your life or something that you're going through,
Exactly,
however
yes.
that is. I was just curious for you having so much exposure to different types of mediums or readers. Like I was in this room the other day and this man was he interviews people who has NDEs. And so he was saying to me that he didn't believe in mediums. He thinks that they're not specific and that may be true for a lot of people, but I was giving him an example of the rotten tomato reading that I did. I thought that was very specific.
Right.
He was not impressed. He was not impressed by that. And he was like, that's pretty general. And I'm like, I think you need to go back and watch the video because it's not. It was not. It was very specific. But it got me curious, like, what do people actually think? They need to hear certain things? Like, is it not as I don't know. I was pretty impressed hearing other mediums pull these very specific pieces through to tell a story, to help somebody through a tough time. And I'm always in awe. Like every time I finish a reading, I'm like, oh my God, it's not about me. It was just like that was so beautiful for the person. Like that was a great thing. But and then when I watch other mediums, I'm just like, "Wow, that's beautiful for the person." But this guy seemed to be super unimpressed, yet he was totally willing to believe the NDE experience, and he was willing to believe that just because they crossed over, brought back gifts they didn't have their whole life. And he thinks that mediums can only be turned on when you're born, and I'm like, "Not true. That isn't true."
Right.
Have you found that to be true, or what has your experience been? Because I don't think you've had mediumistic abilities that you were aware of your whole life, even though you've been able to have them.
No, I had no idea, honestly, until that reading with one of the
Yeah.
people in our workshop. That was the first time that I've ever actually been able to pick up on something, and was I shocked myself.
Right. Right. And because the listeners don't know, Ashley is taking an intuitive workshop that I started because everyone kept asking me to help them. Not everyone, but a lot of people. And so I just offered it, and whoever wanted to join could join. And she wanted to join. And so we just tapped into our intuition a little bit more to help us understand our feelings a little bit and how they worked in our body and how our body responded to certain emotions physically, and just kind of opened up more and more. It's like a practice. And she she knocked it out of the park last week with one of for just being the beginner, but from one of our other students. And so I found that what you got was pretty amazing. How did you feel about that?
Thank you. I'm still kinda shocked about it, to be honest. What I experienced was very real, but at the same time, I was thinking, "This is so random," and I feel like especially the first piece of information, which do you want me to go ahead and
Yeah, you can, but it wasn't I just want to preface this for everyone. When you are first learning how to understand the communication, it does come in very piecey. So it's not going to tell a story right now. Uh,
No.
it's not telling any story except I was riding her coattails energetically. So I was sort of understanding a little bit more and I understood what we were talking about a little bit more, but not the full scope of everything. So I just want everybody to understand that. Go ahead and tell her.
Yeah, so the first piece of evidence, I felt like as soon as I saw it, I was thinking, "I must be getting in my own head," because I feel like this could go with anybody.
Mhm.
And it was what I had saw in my mind's eye was actually a heart that I was given to remember a loved one. It was for my cousin. And I just saw this necklace with a heart. And then after that, I needed 3 pieces of information. So after that, all I saw was like this background of hearts. There was just hearts everywhere. And the spirit just would not let it go. And so I was like, I just need one more. Okay. Like, I don't even know if this background of hearts even counts because you gave me a heart necklace kind of thing. So it's like, just give me one more, okay? And in the background of the hearts was a turtle. And it was just like a flash of a turtle. And so I was like, okay, I think that's good. So then I gave the information, and the first thing that she does is she turns around, she grabs a necklace, a heart shaped necklace that she had just gotten for her loved one that she just lost. And then she also went and said that she also just got a tattoo of a heart behind her ear.
Mhm.
And then following the turtle, she took that as symbolic because she didn't quite understand it yet. And so she thought that meant that time was going slow for her because that's how she felt. Well, then Cindy came in and said, "I think that might be a sign for you." Well, just a few days later, I
It was
get
the
this
next day.
I get
It was the next
it was
day.
the next day. I couldn't remember. I knew it was, like, right after.
Yeah.
The next day, I get tagged in this TikTok by her, and it's a big it's like a ginormous turtle. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a turtle that big, let alone one in person. I mean, I didn't see it in person, but I can't imagine. Like, in my head, I was thinking it was just gonna be like a little, like, turtle that you see at the lake or something, or just crossing the road. No, this was I think she said it was like a 400-pound,
Yeah.
75-year-old turtle.
Yep.
And that just shook me to my core because it was like, "Oh my gosh, I I can do that." Like, if I really, really try, I can actually do that, and I have these gifts and these abilities to do that. It was just really mind-blowing to me.
It's not even a matter of trying, it's just about being. And when
Right,
you just
yes.
are and you allow and surrender, it just happens effortlessly. The problem is our brains are always trying to figure things out, right? Like that's just how they work, how it works. And so you have to train the brain to stop thinking while you allow the information to come in. That takes time and practice and over and over and over again. But what I found so interesting is that just didn't like, she just didn't stumble into the turtle. There was like this whole series of stuff that happened that day that she just kept going, okay, I'm just following along. Like stuff like you would not do normally. Like go meet the boyfriend who just passed his father at some sort of park and ride, and then all this stuff happened wrong with the trailer and braking, and she wound up sitting in this woman's RV for 4 hours. Chickens are coming into the RV, mice are crawling across the floor, and she's just like, okay, I'm just gonna sit here and wait for these things to be fixed. And like then they have to like finally get the guy to come with this random dude with the trailer, and they go back to his house, and he walks up to her within 5 minutes of being there because she'd opted to stay in her car. And he's like, want to see a turtle? She's like, yes. Yes, I do want to see this turtle, because we had just told her that's a sign. I think that's a sign. If you can't validate it, I'm feeling like this is a sign. He's sending his love. He's trying to show you the ways. And she's like, okay, whatever. She totally blew it off. She totally blew it off that night. I mean, I think part of her did, and then the other part was like kind of curious. So she kept looking for it on her adventure that day. But like to have it then just land in her lap in a 400-pound way was the biggest validation for her, but also for you. I just
Yeah.
laughed, going, I've already been through that. So I already know the adrenaline rush you both got from that. Uh, and it's such a fun story to tell because she's a nurse. So she has a very scientific mind. And so being open to this is very weird for her. And now she's starting to see the orchestration that had to happen to get her to be in that guy's yard with the 400-pound turtle, the biggest sign you could ever ask for from spirit, or they're telling you this is what's going to happen. And it's like to happen the very next day. I think she was a little giddy, just a little bit,
Yeah.
just a tiny bit. She was shaking, trying to send us both that picture, you know. But those are the things that you open up to when you're just simply open. And when you open, spirit walks through the door. It's kind of beautiful. Um, but you mentioned the visitation dreams before, because that's also part of it, is having very vivid dreams. Some people get very vivid dreams. I don't. I don't know about you. Do you get vivid dreams?
I get vivid dreams every single night. It actually used to be a really funny thing in the last house that I lived in. After I woke up, I would get asked, "So what crazy dreams did you have last night?" Because I would always tell some crazy dream story that I've had, and I've always had it since I was a kid. And so learning that not everybody remembers their dreams or has them as vivid was very shocking to me because that's all every night there's something new.
Not for me, girl. I go to sleep and I'm like, wake up, like, I don't remember it usually. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. I reset. I plugged into the matrix and I came right back. um, how did that visitation dream from your grandfather go?
Yeah, so when I was 13, the very first person I ever lost was my grandpa. About a few weeks to a month later, he came into my dream, and in the dream, it looked like it was about to storm. My parents, and my brother, we had just pulled up to his driveway at his house, and we were getting ready to plan his funeral. We had
Uh-huh.
already done his funeral in not the dream world, in real life. But in this moment, we were about to go inside and plan the funeral. Well, I happened to look I got out of the car and I was looking outside at how stormy it was, and I looked around and my parents were gone. I just assumed in the dream that they went inside. But then I saw my grandpa out in the middle of the yard, and I ran to him like a little girl, going to hug him, and I gave him a big hug, and I was crying. I was asking him, "Why did you leave me?" Because again, I'm 13, so I'm not really understanding things.
Yeah.
And he just had this big smile on his face and was just hugging me, and he had said, "I didn't leave you. I'm gonna be right here, and I'll see you soon." And then he just started fading away as I was hugging him, and that's whenever I woke up, and that's something that I will always remember.
I love that. I love that. And then you felt comforted, right? And warm.
Very. It was very healing, especially because I had no idea how to process grief. I was never taught how to process grief or anything like that, so it was a very, very healing experience for me.
He feels like a warm hug,
Yes,
strong and stable and kind. He
very.
comes through with a smile and a pipe. I don't know why the pipe. Would you understand him smoking?
Yes, he did smoke.
I don't know why they just don't show me cigarettes. They show me everything but the cigarettes. I'm like, I'm just gonna say smoke because at this point, I don't even know if it's really a pipe, a cigar, or like they never show me the cigarette. It's like literally a pipe or cigar every single time. I'm like, okay. But then he's smiling and he's just sitting there smoking this pipe and he feels, and I can smell the smoke, which is interesting. Um, but he feels very, very warm, very comforting. Yeah.
Very.
Yeah. So I can see why you loved him so much and I can see why you two were very close. Um, I just he's just letting me know that you're here. Also, while you were talking about your cousin, I was writing some notes down as the things were coming in. I felt like I was needed to talk about the Mad Hatter and Alice in Wonderland for some reason, being curiouser and curiouser. Would you understand that? 'Cause I don't
Yes.
yeah,
With
it's
me, yes.
and I felt like she was laughing and this was a tease. This was teasing you. Do you understand that too?
Yes, very much so.
And those are just a few different things because I could hear her laughing and I felt like she was just you were talking, I didn't wanna interrupt you, but I did write it all down, and they're just kinda popping in saying, "I'm still here." But I think we're gonna need to explore this Alice in Wonderland thing another time too, because this seems very interesting to me. Because I don't know if she's saying a lot, actually. I feel like one of you is the Mad Hatter, one of you is Alice. So I feel like Alice is you and she's the Mad Hatter, and then she kept bringing up the cats earlier. And I was like, cats, I know you have cats or a cat that you love. It's just like you've been with cats the whole time, but she doesn't seem to like cats very much. Do you understand that too?
I don't know if she didn't like cats, but the thing with the cats is I actually lost my 2 childhood cats exactly 6 months apart last year. So that was a really, really big deal for me.
You know, the big Cheshire cat in Alice in Wonderland?
Yeah.
So, I was feeling that character as well, but she was like, mm, didn't wanna have anything to do with it, which is why I was like, "Oh, I don't think she likes cats," but maybe I need to explore that later. Maybe there's something to that, just the craziness of the Cheshire cat.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's something there, but we'll peel it back another
I
time.
think I can actually pick up at what she's putting down with the Cheshire Cat that we could talk about
Yeah, we'll
later.
talk about it. Ashley and I agreed that I wouldn't read her here, but because these 2 did drop in, I wanted her just to know. And give you all just a peek behind the veil on how it would start and then work. But I feel like a private reading would be more appropriate for Ashley because there's a lot there and it would help her and benefit her privately. So I think they're just saying when we're ready when you are by being right there in my consciousness. Okay. So I know that you know that and I know you're comforted by it, but in case you kept seeing me write stuff down, that's what I was doing. Okay. You probably hear my pen going. I'm getting ready. I'm getting stuff. So, it's like they all
Yeah, I could tell.
know the thing. It's like when I hear that pen, I know stuff is happening. So it's like, yes, that's exactly right. To write it all down so my active brain doesn't take over. Um, anyway, where was I at? Okay, we talked about vivid dreams. Your grandpa, I had to bring him in really quick and just say he's here. Hugs for now, just that little
Yes, I
thing.
appreciate that.
Um, and not just vivid dreams. So you see things. Are you experiencing the feelings yet? Are you experiencing hearing? I mean, I know you heard in meditation, but has that come through any time for you? The hearing, the knowing, the smelling, the tasting, any of that yet?
Yes, yes, actually, all of it,
Okay.
really. The the hearing especially, I felt like now whenever we do the intuitive workshop, I feel like I don't really hear as much, but whenever I'm just going on about my day, it might be more of the downloads, I'm still trying to discern that, but there's just drop of information in my head. Sometimes I do hear things audibly. Actually, after my cousin passed away, I kept hearing things audibly, like, I would hear my name or something, and I'm like, "What the heck?" A lot of the times, especially my grandpa, it's a different grandpa, but whenever I'm in the car, I hear him all the time. He's always judging my driving, and I actually had a reading for him this last week, and one of the first things she brought in was she just put her pen down, she was like, "Are you a really aggressive driver? Do you drive too fast?" And I was like, "Maybe." And she was like, "Okay, I'm not here to scold you because I had to take a aggressive driving test as well. But he really, really wants you to be more careful and to stop being so confident in your driving."
Yeah.
And I just thought and then she was like, "And you feel him in the car, don't you? Like, in the back seat and the front seat?" And that's exactly how I've always felt was I can always figure out where he's at. He, like, jumps around in my not, like, literally jumps around my car, but one morning and it's always on my way to work, one morning I feel him in the back seat, one morning I feel him in the front seat, and I hear things in my head. I feel most connected to him in the car well, I think I know the reason, but yes, I definitely hear things, and my cousin too, she's the big jokester for sure.
Yeah,
I
she
definitely hear
definitely was giving me that, the laughing and the teasing, and so I was starting to understand she was talking about, maybe the experiences of being alive through the lens of Alice in Wonderland, but I was starting to feel like this is part of her personality. Yeah,
Okay, I just realized something. Okay, with the Alice in Wonderland, I
yeah.
as a kid, I called her Alice. That's not her name, but I called her Alice because I didn't know how to like, I for some reason, I just kept calling her that. So that's
So
so
this
funny.
is this is also why she laughs and teases, right? Because it's always layered. It's always layered like this, and if I would have
Yes.
gone on further, I would have maybe gotten to that, but these are the nuggets. You don't get it right away, and then suddenly, boom, there. Well, that's, no accident, you just had that pop in your mind.
Right, yeah, you said it and I was like, "Oh, shoot, that's,
Yeah,
like, almost her name."
right, but that's okay. Those are the little nuggets that let you know that it is them, and, I mean, I would you know me, I give very good evidence. I mean, really good
Very.
evidence, so that will happen in your private, I'm sure, but regardless, your experience, my experience as a reader, that took time. Your experience is just kind of getting started, and how things feel for you, what goes on in your head, how your experiences have sort of molded and shaped you to be right here in this moment, going through this for a very specific reason, none of which you are aware yet of what that is or where you're going. You will start to understand it as you discern and figure out what your truth is and what your purpose is. But it's always about being of service to other people too, which I feel very important, um, importantly guided toward myself. I feel like it is a very strong piece for me. Um, how do you feel for yourself now? Do you get a sense of that at all at this
Oh,
stage?
For sure. I've always been a helper
Hmm.
throughout my entire life. I've always What feeds my soul is helping others. I actually am going to school to be a psychologist. So any way to help someone always helps me in a sense. So I definitely understand the feeling of wanting to be service to others 100%.
How do you feel about that's interesting. I didn't know that about you about the psychology part, or how are you going to square this? These are two different things like kind of colliding together, which could be essentially very helpful for people.
That's where I was gonna go with that, is I feel like if anything, it'll help me
Mm.
to help others in a
Hmm.
completely different sense. Even if I honestly feel like keeping this, on not locked up, but just, a close circle of people, like, me telling it a closer people to me in a sense.
Hmm.
Just becau and especially if I do pursue the which I am pursuing this profession, but especially if I stick with it, I feel like it'll actually help me advance a little bit more in it, in a sense. Because I honestly didn't plan on doing this. I planned on doing the psychology part, but not the intuitive workshop or trying to really dive into that until very recently, and it actually started whenever I was really thinking about it and what I wanna do in life, I had thought, "You know what? I think this is happening for a reason. I feel like it would really help me in pursuing what I wanna do."
That's interesting. That is very interesting. And it's interesting how you kind of got pulled to these certain things. And I kind of want to talk about, for whatever reason, I want to talk about what that feels like to you. So when you are experiencing, I need to like do this or I want to do this, is it automatic? You just know and you just kind of do it? Or is it you think about it and then that thought gets stronger, more persistent in your head? Um, Tell me what your experience was. For the
Yes.
intuitive workshops and even the spiritual community, like, how did that feel inside of you?
Yeah, so with the spirituality part of it and the intuitive workshop, it wasn't necessarily automatic,
Yeah.
but at the same time it was. I felt very drawn to it, and I'm a big overthinker, which I am working on. And so I go through every sort of scenario in my head before I go and pursue something. Now, with the psychology aspect of it, of wanting to be a psychologist, that was automatic, but I kept getting planted things into my head, which is what essentially usually leads to the overthinking, kind of like with the spirituality aspect of it all. So they kind of go hand in hand with it, where I feel drawn to something, but because I've had all these things told to me, I feel like I have to examine every scenario and every situation, every belief, opinion, and I've gotten a lot better about not doing that.
That's good.
So, yeah, a lot of my family is not a big fan of the psychology or the spirituality aspect of it, but here I am anyways.
I mean, you gotta do you, boo.
Exactly.
You gotta do what feels right for you, and, I'm kind of curious about the intuitive workshop. What made you decide to do that?
So it's funny. So I found you through my friend Laura,
Yeah.
and she asked me because we had noticed that a lot of the regulars in the rooms that we go in, which is how we met each other, we kept finding each other in these rooms. And she was finally like, "Okay, we obviously support the same people. Like, let's be friends." So I was like, "Okay, yeah, sure." And she had introduced me to you, and then she had mentioned the intuitive workshop, and she had said, "Do you want to do this with me? It's only $10." So I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And I was really nervous about it at first, but as soon as I got in the room, it was like there's just something about being like even though I was really nervous beforehand, there's something about being in the room and just being able to really discover more about yourself in that sense and what your intuition really carries.
Also, the room is very safe. The women
Very.
that are taking the class, there's one guy too on Sunday, but the class that you take on Monday, the people are just so cool. I love them. They're
Yes.
just so supportive of each one of you, and, like, it's just a safe place to feel comfortable, to open up, to just allow yourself to mess up or not, but I don't think any one of you have really messed up. I think there's just been a little misunderstanding on both sides, and that's all I try to point out.
Right.
'Cause and you have to tell me if that's right or wrong. I don't know.
No, absolutely.
But
Yes.
but the thing is you're as soon as you popped in, you probably felt that from everybody. I mean, I don't think that's luck, you know? I think that that's orchestration. That's what I
Right, exactly. Yes.
helping us all kind of formulate our little pod, our little community, our little thing, and then it gives you the space to feel comfortable in that space to expand. And so
I was thinking the exact same thing. I was like, "Expand." Yep.
yeah, because when you're comfortable, you don't if you're uncomfortable, you'll restrict, you'll close up. But when you're comfortable, you open up, it's warm, it expands. Like your grandfather was just sort of showing that warm hug, that expansion, that warmth. And so it allows you to be relaxed and comfortable
Exactly.
and able to do the things that you need to do. Uh, so what do you have next on your plate? What are you wanting to kind of at least for the next 6 months, what are you doing in your life?
Yeah, so right now I'm kinda trying to find a balance between just life in general. Because ever since my cousin passed away, it's been a bit unbalanced, and there's a lot of layers with that. And so, first one is trying to find a job. I do work, but trying to find a different job. And
Mhm.
then also getting back into school because after her passing, I couldn't really go to school, which is a whole other thing. And so, trying to get back on the path that I was to begin with is where I'm trying to be right now. And I
Yeah.
know it's gonna look so differently now that I'm on this spiritual path as well, and I'm really excited to see what all that brings,
Yeah,
trying
me
to
too.
combine all of it in that path.
I agree. I couldn't be more excited for you, Ashley, and you have such a wonderful way about yourself. Like you just have really good energy, number one, but I'm really excited to see where you take yourself, where your path leads. And I'm so glad to be a part of your journey because you're just like this beautiful flower that's just going to grow and just show this beauty to the world. I just shine your light, girl. I don't know what else to say about it because I mean, your growth is going to be phenomenal. That part I do know. I
Thank
have that
you,
feeling.
thank you.
Um, if anyone wants to reach out to ask questions, where can they reach you?
Well, they can find me on TikTok or Instagram might be the better one. Instagram at ashley.x.nicole, and then on TikTok, my username is kissmyash with 3 H's. 444.
Yep. She's spiritual, all right. Oh my goodness. That's
Had to
awesome.
add the spiritual twist in there somewhere in the username, I don't know.
444. She just dropped it like it's hot. Bam.
Yeah, I was like, "Well, you asked, here
That's so
I don't
great.
have an
I love it.
alternative."
I know. Hopefully nobody was drinking anything hot at that moment. It's like went all over their computer screen. All right. So you all know where to find her on social. Um, as far as me, Pink Lion, I am on every social under Pink Lion Mediumship. And I can also be reached at csmuckmediumship@gmail.com. Thank you so much for joining me, Ashley.
Thank you.
And I look forward to doing that reading on you this week.
Yes, me too.
All
Really
right.
appreciate it.
Pink Line community. Until next time.